All right, guys, we're gonna do a part two on this, maybe more parts. We'll see. So he's in the middle of his closing arguments, and just to recap, he doesn't want to argue the facts, but he's saying that everything that they saying or have said about him isn't true, but doesn't want to discuss anything specific. It's a weird way to try to defend yourself if you say you're innocent of a crime. But anyway, to me, it just seems like he doesn't want to take responsibilities for the things that he's done. Um, because if you believe you haven't done anything wrong, then you say that. It's another thing to say someone's lying about what you did and not disproving it again. So we have to be careful with that and not get caught up in emotional appeals, not get caught up in what color skin someone has. I mean, facts are facts and truth is truth. Despite the way the world is going and the fact that people want you to believe in their truth. Well, guess what? No, truth is in a sense singular. There's only one truth. There isn't multiple truths. It's just not. It's not how it works. Okay. That being said, because that's a different video for a different day. That being said, we're about 11 minutes into his closing arguments, and we're gonna keep going here.
I say, look at the testimony. The theme from the prosecution here has been intent, 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 intent.
Intent is important.
We all know what's been said. We all know the picture that's been painted.
Hey, if you intentionally commit a crime, hey, what do you expect, right? What really do you expect if you intentionally have done something? Let's just take it to a petty crime. You go inside your local Family Dollar or Dollar Tree or what have you, and you plan to take something prior to entering into said retail establishment, and you take something without paying and you get caught. Well, your intentions are relevant, right? On the back end, let's say on the back end, let's say you do the same thing, but when you get there, you didn't actually intend, you actually intended to pay for it. What happened was the line was super long and you didn't want to wait, so you took it and walked out the door without paying. It's still wrong, right? It's still wrong. Intention, how can I say this? Let's word this in a well worded way. Intention just establishes the wickedness within, right? You intended to do that which was wrong. You planned it, right? Versus you got caught up in the moment, which is still bad. Still bad. But it's not exactly the same. But wrong is wrong. No matter what the motivation is behind it, wrong is wrong. But let him keep going.
Even the prosecution said themselves. How can you look in somebody's head and say, this is what they intended to do? You know, for a year, I've sat and gone through this. You know, feeling so powerless. You know, letting other people run with the narratives. Sitting back helpless while other people paint a picture that has zero truth. Zero.
Like what, Mr. Brooks?
I
Let's
understand
argue
about
those
killing
facts. You were talking
myself,
about you didn't want to.
tragedy, pain, all that. A lot of it, there's no need to get into.
Wait, what did he just say? Maybe I missed that because
I
I was talking.
myself in my own life have had.
Let me go back. Let me go back.
I understand about healing myself,
Okay.
tragedy, pain, all that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it, there's no need to get into.
So why bring it up?
Uh,
What's the purpose of that? What emotional appeal are you making? So let me pause this. And I can't pause after every single thing that he says, but this is a tremendous opportunity to be able to show you um, what's wrong with this picture. He's emotional. He's choking up. And I understand his life is at stake. So to a certain extent, I get it. On the back end, you're bringing up irrelevant points and then saying there's no need to go into them. Then why bring them up? Well, because you're inadvertently trying to appeal to the emotional positions and biases of the jury members, right? This is why he didn't want to deal with the facts. That's why he didn't want to argue the facts. Because he knew he was going to speak from the quote heart. He was going to try to appeal to them emotionally rather than um, deal with the facts of the case. Did you do XYZ? Is XYZ a crime? Right? So that's those are two. That's the thing about jury nullification, which we talked about a little bit in the first part. Is jury nullification is if the jury recognizes that the plaintiff, the defendant, did something, but they don't agree with the law. Yes, this defendant appears to be in violation of the law, but jury nullification says the law is in violation of his rights. In fact, he didn't do anything wrong. And I don't know anybody in the world who can argue that anyone has the right to run over someone else who isn't trying to harm them. Right? Notice I said that isn't trying to harm them, right? Because there have been times where, you know, mobs and things have happened and some people have been run over because the driver feared for his or her life, or any passengers they had in the vehicle with them as well. And so at that point is where you get in a different situation because fear for your life. If you're not fearing for your life and you just drive through a crowd of people because you're angry about whatever, is that okay? And the answer to that is no, it's not okay. It can't be okay. We can't have a civilized society if that's okay. But he doesn't want to deal with the facts of the case because, again, if you deal with the facts of the case, jury nullification doesn't apply. Now, am I saying that I agree with the DA and the judge who didn't want him to talk about jury nullification? No, I don't agree with them. He should have been able to talk to the jury about jury nullification. However, again, jury nullification deals with the facts. Did so-and-so violate the law? The answer is yes, typically. So-and-so violated the law. But then the question is, with jury nullification is the law just? Is the law just? If the law is not just, then the jury says we find him not guilty. It's that simple. And yet, slightly complex. Like I said, guys, be familiar with the systems you participate in. If you're going to sit on a jury, you need to know what jury nullification is. I do agree with Mr. Brooks that far. What I don't like is that in plenty of these high-profile cases is that individuals have tried to use jury nullification when it was not applicable, and therefore making those who believe in jury nullification as a virtuous thing look terrible. But let him keep going.
I myself in my own life have had to do a lot of healing.
Right, and now you may be the
as a
cause
man
of
with
people having
children
yeah.
myself. I find it hard to believe that anyone who's really had conversations with me, spent time around me, would think for 1 second that this is an intentional act.
Okay. Okay.
I've never
So if it
heard
was
of.
so if it was unintentional, what should be the consequence? You guys tell me. Let's say for the sake of the argument, he unintentionally, you know, ran into some people with a vehicle. What would be the consequence to that? I can't say that I really have an answer to that. Um, Comment in the comment section below. But I think what typically happens is there's usually like a manslaughter charge for accidental deaths, if I'm not mistaken. But not sure that quite fits here. But let him keep going.
Someone intentionally trying to hurt someone while attempting to blow their horn. While attempting to alert people of their presence.
Was that true? Did he step on the brakes as well?
Which brings me to
because just because you blow your horn,
information.
Just because you blow your horn doesn't mean you weren't intentionally doing what you were doing. Because at what point do you, I think it's established that 6 people were killed and more than a dozen individuals were also injured. So did you step on the brakes, Mr. Brooks, while beeping said horn? See, again, I haven't been following this, so I don't know all the details, but it just seems a bit strange that you don't want to argue the facts, but you do want to argue the facts because according to you, the fact is you beep your horn, therefore that means it wasn't intentional. Well, okay. I'm familiar with different events where there was domestic violence and a male individual was standing in front of the vehicle trying to block the woman from exiting. She beeps the horn as to say, get out of the way, because she knew she was going to drive through. And he didn't move and he got ran over. Is that unintentional because she beeped the horn first? Or was beeping the horn a signal that, hey, if you don't move, I'm going to hit you anyway? I don't know. You guys be the judge. I'm just speculating here because, again, I don't know everything. But it just... You're trying to get the jury to deal with the facts, but do the jury members know? Because he's talking about, he finds it hard to believe that anybody who spoke to him, knew him in the past, would think he would do something like this intentionally. And I get that, but that would make sense if jury members knew you personally and knew you weren't that kind of person. So he's trying to appeal to them emotionally by appealing to other people he know. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's all.
That I believe that you should have been privy to. And I'm sure that the prosecution will beg to differ. But the fact of the matter is, the vehicle in question, make a model of 2010, Ford Escape. The vehicle in question, actually 2008, 2009, and 2010 of that model was in fact recalled.
Objection, misstatement of the facts, facts not in evidence.
Was in
Improper
fact-
argument, Your Honor.
Sustained.
Was in fact recalled. Was in fact a class action lawsuit against Ford
Objection,
for
facts
those
not in
model
evidence,
for
Your
those
Honor.
model vehicles.
Sustained. The juror
Is
will
that
disregard.
true?
Information
Does
that
anybody know if that's true? I'm not familiar with that. For this, well, you know what? Let's put that down for a second. Let's actually let's check that out here. Let's see. You guys don't mind? I'm gonna have to check that out. Ford Escape recall. What is it? 2008 to 2010 model. All right. Recall in 2008 to 2011. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Transition problems. That's cars.com. Ford Escapes recalls for steering. But that's 2008. That's 2008. He was driving in 2010. Let's look at this. Oh, let's look at this. We gotta look at this. Hey, we gotta look at this. Okay, from the Department of Transportation. Okay, let's see what we got here. No, where's the recall information? I don't know recall. I see some steering stuff from 2022 here, but maybe, let me see. 5 recalls. Fuel delivery module may crack, cause fuel leak, front wheel burn, has wrong dimensions, loss of electrical power, steering assist. Okay. So, was it able to be proven that his particular vehicle, his because that's the thing in a recall, like, there may be a risk to some of the vehicles just because quality control wasn't done well, but does that mean his vehicle was suffering that problem, right? But interesting.
that you should have been privy to, that you weren't allowed to be privy to. Why? I don't know. That information, malfunctioning throttle bodies,
Mr. Brooks, move out.
it's information that you should have been privy to.
Okay, now, malfunctioning throttle body. I didn't see that. Hold on. Wait a minute. I didn't see that. I gotta go check that out again. I don't see that. Let's see. I just see these 5 things. I don't see anything else. Fuel delivery module, wheel burn, front wheel burn, loss of electric steering power, aftermarket seat covers, which is and this was an airbag problem, and the park rod guide retention pin. So vehicle parked without an engaged park pawl and without an applied parking brake may have unintended movement which may cause a crash. So the vehicle, now a throttle body, if I understand it correctly, allows for, air to mix in with the gas. So it allows for combustion, right? Which has to do with the ability to accelerate. When you step on the gas, typically the throttle body opens a little bit and allows air to mix in so combustion can work. Now, now that's if I understand it correctly. I am not a mechanic. Let me be clear about that. However, and let's click back over to this. However, if he's saying that the throttle body was malfunctioning and he knew that, why was he still driving that vehicle? Right, excuse me. If the vehicle was accelerating in ways he could not control, why would he still be driving that vehicle? I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have. I've stopped driving vehicles for less dangerous reasons than that. Right, and I don't know how old Mr. Brooks is, but it would appear to me he's old enough to know, hey, I could kill myself, let alone other people. I could kill myself, like, driving this vehicle. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take that risk. I don't care where I have to go. We can figure something else out. Here's the other thing that kind of bothers me about that. Can we establish that he already knew about it? Did he know about the recall before the alleged accident? Did he know already? Why didn't he take the car back in? The truck back in? If he knew about the recall? See, that's the thing about, when people go to court and then they try to use, facts, right? And it's a fact that there's recall on 2010 Ford Escape. I just seen it on government website. I just showed you guys. But if did he already know, right? Because if he already knew, he was in. How is that recall relevant to this case? If you knew, but you still drove the car, knowing you could lose power over the vehicle. And you couldn't control its acceleration because of a throttle body, even though I didn't see that in the recall section. But if that was a problem, why would you still be driving that vehicle in populated areas? Right? In which case, okay, we can say if that's the case, if he didn't know about the recalls prior, then we can say that this was an accident. But if he knew, right, I would still say it was an accident, but extremely negligent on his part, knowing that he was putting himself at risk, any passengers he was taking in the vehicle at risk. He said he had children. Any pedestrians at risk because you can't control the steering. I've owned a truck where the steering was not acting right, and I parked it. I would not drive it, right? Because one, caring about myself. Two, someone else's vehicle or life was just as important to me as my own, and so it was important to me not to put anybody else at risk just because I wanted to drive my pickup truck. I mean, that's what being a man is about, right? Being responsible. So let's get back to that men against nonsense ideology and theme. If you knew this truck would accelerate beyond what you wanted, you actively engaged in nonsense, and so in my mind, you are responsible for the incident at hand. If you didn't know, and that was the first day for that, it's the first time, and an accident happened. Sometimes things happen. That's true. If you didn't know, I get it. But if you already knew, you were actively engaged in nonsense, and look at the result of you not being a man and responsible enough to say, I know that this vehicle is not functioning properly. I need to park it until I can either fix it myself or come up with the funds to have it fixed. That just makes sense. That just makes sense. The other thing that I had thought about, and it just came back to my mind, was he said he beeped the horn so that people could be alerted to his presence, why didn't he pull the emergency brake? Right? Press the brake, pull the emergency brake. They make those for that reason. Right? And so guys, men against nonsense, please know how to use your emergency brake. Please be prepared to use your emergency brake if you have to. You should be conscious of that. I might have to pull this emergency brake because I don't want to harm anybody. Yeah. No man should be engaged in any activity he's not ready to deal with adverse circumstances. Let me say that again. No man should be engaged in any activity that he's not ready to deal with adverse circumstances. Period. Because that's not being responsible. That's not being a man against nonsense. Like, it's nonsensical to be involved in an activity where dangerous situations can arise and you're not ready to navigate those dangers. And participating in that activity puts other people at risk. That's the kicker there. But let's keep going because I don't want these videos to be super long.
Vehicles that malfunction and accelerate not being able to be stopped.
Objection, that is
It's
completely
information.
inaccurate.
It's
Not
information.
Now,
inaccurate.
again, is that true? Is that true? Would the emergency brake not stop it? Because I'm going to tell you, if you ever tried to accelerate with your emergency brake on, it's going to slow you down tremendously. It absolutely is going to slow you down. Not only that, you could also throw the vehicle in park. Yeah. You can throw, I mean, you'll probably destroy the transmission, but isn't that better than taking 6 lives? If you're a man against nonsense, let's weigh that on a scale. Destroying my transmission or destroying 6 lives. 6+ lives. Right? 6 people died, dozens of people injured. I damaged my transmission all day. That's just me. If you have a different opinion about that, I would ask you to question whether you are a man against nonsense or not.
Go ahead.
Move to strike statements by Mr.
Sorry for the
Brooks.
interruption.
They are facts, not an evidence, Your Honor, and it's a complete misstatement.
Sustained. Strike
How's it a
the-
misstatement when I have the information?
Mr. Brooks, move on.
This is information that I feel like you needed to know. You should have known. Information that was taken away from you. Why? To prove a case? Information that
And
you
again,
definitely should have been privy to.
I get his point. It does. I think that information would have an effect on the jury. I think it would have an effect on the jury. I also think that information wouldn't necessarily have any relationship to jury nullification, is what he started out his closing arguments with. Like, if he literally could not control the the truck, because of throttle body malfunction, which controls acceleration and combustion and acceleration in the vehicle in question, then that should have been considered. So I'm not on anybody's side here. I'm on the side of the truth, and there's only one truth, right? Now, was there any forensic evidence done on the vehicle to prove that the throttle body was malfunctioning? I don't know. He didn't mention that. I didn't watch the rest of the case, so I don't know. But even still, I mean, I still think that there is some culpability, because he could have not driven a car he knew was malfunctioning. That's one. Two, if you're going to drive it, you need to be prepared to deal with the emergency. Throw the vehicle in park immediately. Pull the emergency brake immediately. Swerve, right? Or and don't drive if you had this problem. Don't drive around populated areas. Why would you drive near a Christmas parade? Makes no sense. So I think there's some responsibility he has to take for this. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
DA says the defendant has an utter disregard for human life. Utter disregard for human life. Not realizing that they're talking about someone that has children. Talking about someone that watched their children come out of the womb and be born into this world, cut the umbilical cord, held them before their mom even did.
What does that have to do with whether he has a disregard for life?
Moments that I'll never forget.
No, seriously, what does that? Because you love your children doesn't mean you regard anyone else's life. I just want to clear that up. Now, as a man against nonsense, you should have regard for all lives. Yeah, absolutely. But just because you say, hey, I was there at the birth and I cut the umbilical cord, see, that's that emotional appeal instead of dealing with the facts. Right? Which he said he didn't want to do. Only the facts that he cares about, which is, I was there when my children was born and I cut the umbilical cord, and how dare you say I have an utter disregard for human life when I watch my babies being born. I'm proud of you for being there, because there are a lot of people who aren't there when their children are born. But that does not determine whether you have disregard for other human lives that don't have any biological connection to you or perceived biological connection to you. So, I mean, hey, be a man about it. Did you drive the vehicle, knowing that it had problems anyway? And be a man and take responsibility for what you decided to do and the accident it caused. Or the incident it caused you, not accident, incident. I like to use words very intentionally here. And as a man against nonsense, we must use our words very intentional and be very clear and concise when we're communicating with others. But let him keep going.
And yet they say disregard, utter disregard for human life. They made reference to a rage, as if they were if this particular DA was right there, standing right there, as if this DA is a psychiatrist.
Well,
I said to myself,
what did the witnesses say?
Rage. What do you mean rage?
What did the witnesses say? Did they say what he looked like when the incident
How
took
can you
place?
characterize that?
Maybe I need to go look at some witness testimony. Hey guys, again sorry for that. These commercials. There you go.
To diagnose what someone's brain is, where it's at, what it's thinking, why it thinks the way it does.
Well, sometimes people's faces communicate what's going on in their
DA
brain.
makes
It's called,
references
body
to
language, right?
Blocks of no one being injured, but then says it's intentional. You add that up with the supposed rage. the supposed intent to harm and kill, and it doesn't kick in until well within blocks. And maybe it's just me, but I would think if
His body
I
language
was
is
characterizing
disturbing
someone with
to me.
this intent to kill and this rage and this anger.
I mean, you do seem a little bit angry here, bro. I mean, I understand you're on trial for your life.
Why
but
weren't people
look at his
immediately harmed?
facial expressions
Why
and
was
his
someone with
demeanor.
intent to
He
kill
doesn't
and
even
rage
look at the jury.
try to alert people of
often,
their presence?
but
Repeatedly honk their horn.
Those are the folks you're
You
trying
heard
to
a
convince
detective,
to nullify.
if you recall, testify that the vehicle that he observed was not only honking his horn, but was not speeding. So where does this rage kick in? Where does this insatiable intent to kill
What did the
kick
computer
in?
system on? Let me pause that real quick, and it's probably a good time to end it right here because we're over 30 minutes. But each modern vehicle has a computer system which will tell you how fast the vehicle was going at that time. Where's the like I said, where is the forensic evidence? And again, I didn't watch the whole trial, so maybe I missed that. And if he's just going on this kind of rant here, even though there's forensic evidence that suggests that he was speeding, you know, maybe he did honk his horn. Again, I don't know that. I didn't watch the witness testimony. I didn't see any forensic testimony. But those are the things, the questions that come in my mind because the facts of the case can be established. I mean, just by hooking up a monitor to the vehicle's computer system, you can, like, police officers can do this and pull up record, like your vehicle is tracing you and tracking you, and the computer in it is maintaining everything you do. That's how you can take it to a mechanic and they can read it and tell you what code you have and misfires and malfunctions and sensors that are broken. The computer is reading everything that's going on. That's why it has sensors. That's why the vehicle has sensors, so that the computer can read and diagnose problems so they can be repaired. Right? So that's a good place to leave off for now. I would just say, like, look at the body language. He's really emotional, and again, I understand his life is on the line, but you're not going to get anyone to believe you if they already assume you're an angry guy, right? So when your posture, your body language, your facial expressions, if they don't suit your interest, learn how to control that, man, right? Because there's a time to look angry, right? Sometimes you need somebody to know you're angry, right? And then there's a time to have what they call a poker face. Put your poker face on. I think it would have done him a great service to have a poker face when he gave these closing arguments. Probably would have helped him a little bit, but who knows? So until the next time, guys, be a man against nonsense. Right? Control your emotions, control your facial expressions. Only deal with the truth and disregard the lies. I'll see you guys in next time.